Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Academy. Now we're going to end our review of Chapter 10 today, of Sun Tzu's Art of War. Now, it's going to be interesting. Over the course of the next couple episodes, we're actually going to be skipping quite a few sentences because the later portions of the book, the last few chapters, really there's less and less that applies directly to the tabletop. And in fact, I don't want to try to put you guys through, me trying to pretend there is and try to make up stuff. I say that because today, what I'm about to read to you, you wouldn't normally think of as, applying the tabletop. But when I read it, for some reason, my brain caught a concept that I kind of wanted to share with you. So bear with me as we walk through this and you kind of see where I'm headed. I think it might be a very good set of thoughts to kind of keep in mind that you may not really catch if you went through it just reading in general. So with that, let's get started with it. We've skipped sentences 25 and 26 already because those don't apply. We're going to start with sentence 27 and read through sentence 31. All right. If we know that our own men are in a condition to attack, but are unaware that the enemy is not open to attack, we have gone only halfway toward victory. Now, if we know that the enemy is open for attack, but are unaware that our own men are not in a condition to attack, we have only gone halfway toward victory. If we know that the enemy is open to attack, and we also know that our men are in condition to attack, but are unaware that the nature of the ground makes fighting impracticable, we have still only gone halfway towards victory. Hence, the experienced soldier, once in motion, is never bewildered. Once he has broken camp, he is never at a loss. Hence the saying, if you know the enemy and know yourself, your victory will not stand in doubt. If you know heaven and know earth, you may make your victory complete. Okay, kind of sounds pretty esoteric. And when you think about it in actual military terms, really understanding what your men are capable of, what their morale condition, their health condition is, this kind of all makes sense. So let's see how this applies to tabletop. Because really, if we think carefully about this, we can apply this in two different ways. All right. Now, some game systems, actually do incorporate some sort of, I'll call it a stress factor. Bolt action uses pinning markers. There's Rogue Stars, which also uses pinning. That's a skirmish game. You've got the new Shadow Wars, and you've got Mordheim that have a fallback kind of a maneuver, where you're actually going toward cover, you're hiding when you're broken. Those are situations where your units may not be at full strength, or not necessarily numbers, but capable of pressing forward and attacking at full strength, or full chance to hit, all this kind of stuff. May have to pass an order or make a check of some sort in order to actually take an action. Okay, so let's keep that in mind, and also add one more factor. Even if the system doesn't have these mechanics for stress, there is always the physical condition of your troops. Okay, now those will be, for example, let's say a full strength unit is 20 models, and now you're only down to 10. Okay, if you need to actually keep in mind the fact that you're half strength. You won't be able to dish out as many attacks as possible. There'll be very much easier for you to be destroyed because you have fewer wounds left. So you got to keep the actual physical condition of the unit in mind. So keep all that in mind for a second, and let's look at how do we apply this now. Okay, so the first comment is sentence 27, 28 are kind of the two halves of the same coin. If you know the enemy is open to attack, and you're not, or and you're not ready to attack, or your enemy's not open to attack, but your units are, both of them, you're not going to really get to victory. So first, what do we mean by the enemy open to attack? They have to be in a position where they can be reached. You can direct sufficient firepower on them, whether it's at range or hand-to-hand combat, and be able to be in a position where they don't get sufficient benefits from whatever is terrain or position that really nullifies your attack. Okay, maybe they've got a good portion of the army far enough back, and there's just a screen up front. It's just you can't get to the bulk of their army. They're not really ready to be attacked because you can't get to the units that matter. So understand when the opponent is open for attack and when he's not. When he's accessible and you can direct enough firepower on him, combat capability on him, he is open to attack. But if your units can't do that because they're under strength, they're pinned, they're falling back, they're cowering, whatever it is, and you still try to attack, you're not going to succeed, likely. There's always dice involved, so maybe you will. But that's why he says you're only halfway to victory, not a guaranteed. If he's open to attack and you attack with units you know are fully capable of accomplishing that task, the full strength units, the ones that aren't routed, the ones that are able to get there, then you are more likely to succeed. Okay, so that's what he's trying to get. And really where this comes together is in your own brain. Because a lot of times we get caught up in the stress of the battle. I mean, we're there experiencing not actual combat, but the stress of your opponent's putting pressure on you, attacking certain areas. Your units are getting injured. It's just there's all that. You guys all know what I'm talking about. You've been there. You felt that. During that, you have to be aware of the condition of each of your units. You can't forget, because if you do, you will inadvertently apply one of those lesser strength units to something that it may not be able to tackle as effectively as something else. It may even get in the way sometimes. So that's what you want to kind of think about in terms of those sentences. So know when the enemy is open to be attacked, and then when he is, only attack with those units that are capable of delivering the blows that you need, not the ones that are falling back on you. Now it turns out most of your army's in this stress situation. Take steps within the game mechanics of the system to remove that stress before you launch your attack. Don't launch the attack when you are stressed. That is a recipe for disaster. Don't even attempt it, because those attempts prevent you from trying to relieve the stress. It's better to bide your time a little bit, reduce the stress to ensure the attacks go forward. All right, so he adds in sentence 29 the fact that ground comes into play. If you don't realize that the ground that you're about to traverse is actually, and the ground on which you're going to fight makes it impractical to fight, you still may not win. Okay. Now, this is a little hard to apply because we have terrain on the battlefield, and it's a hodgepodge of all sorts. In a very micro perspective, unit by unit, you can evaluate this and say, well, this terrain is going to impact this one unit's attack on its chosen target, but it won't necessarily affect your whole army. So we can apply the concept of realizing that your unit not only has to be able to deliver its full combat capability, or the maximum capability it has, to the enemy unit that is accessible to it, but it has to be able to move through the ground and be unimpeded by the terrain between them. Okay, whether it's elevation differences or rough ground, you name it. It just has to be able to get there or deliver it. So you need to be aware of the ground as well. Put all that together and you should end up with some sort of victory. Now, I want to cover sentence 30. This is almost a kind of an explanation of illustration here. And this one actually applies to the general himself, you, the player. Hence, the experienced soldier, once in motion, is never bewildered. Once his broken camp is never at a loss. What Sun Tzu is really talking about here is that the experienced soldier has already thought through all these factors. He's thought not the entire battle ahead, because you don't know what the enemy is going to do, but what is he going to do? What could the opponent do? What factors does he have to deal with? What's his condition, his army's condition, what have you? And he's already thought all that through before he even leaves the camp and starts toward the enemy. Because if you've got all that figured out and then you go, you are much more likely to go forward and accomplish what you set out to do, because you're not reacting haphazardly to circumstances that come through. You're actually following your plan which again has incorporated the estimation, the calculation, and the risk assessments from previous chapters. Okay. Matter of fact, one of the previous commentators, Tumu, was actually really highlighted in his commentary the fact that this veteran soldier does not move recklessly. So he has a plan when he moves. He knows what he's trying to accomplish and how to get there, physically get there. We're not talking grand strategy here. We're talking about the tactical situation. So if he doesn't move, he doesn't have a reason to move, right? But if he moves, he's not going to make mistakes. And I don't like the way that one of the commentators put that, but he knows what he's trying to accomplish, has factored all those into his calculations and his risk assessments, and it is not going to hesitate, not going to switch gears, unless the tactical situation changes and it warrants a change in his calculation. Okay? All right, so, well, that's really the end of chapter 10. There's nothing left. This is a relatively normal length chapter. The next chapter is exceptionally long. However, there's not going to be a lot of videos on it because, like I said before, these last 3 chapters, 11, 12, and 13, have less and less to do with the tabletop. So we'll be skipping more of the sentences. So you might you won't be missing things if you tune in 1 week and we're on sentence 4, and then 2 weeks or the next week we're on sentence 19. Don't think you missed something. Okay, I just warn you ahead of time. And I'll mention the same thing in each of the next videos, because from this point forward, we really will be skipping around several sentences. All right, well, I hope you learned something from that. I hope it got you thinking about a couple things, and trying to keep it succinct in the spirit of Sun Tzu. So with that, I'll leave you be. I hope to see you next week in the next edition of the Academy. Bye-bye.